Samrita Tilahari Kalolama Muhu Vande Rupasanatamo Raghuyato Sri Jiva Gopalato Puja Kopila Hamsatara Sajana Kule Nana Ratna Nivara Mula Vikapa Shri Yuddha Vrindavane Radha Krishna Mahanisham Prabhajato Jivarkato Yomudha Vande Rupasanatamo Raghuyato Sri Jiva Gopalato Sankhya Purvatanamadananativi Kalavasani Krito Nigrahaya Vihara Bhagavad-gita chapter 14, the 12th. Arjuna Vacha Evam Bhaktastam Bhavyupasate Echa Praksharam Avyaktam Esham Ke Yoga Vittamaha Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Veshad Mano Yemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shadaya Parayo Petas te me utatamamataha. Ye tvaksharamanirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastham machalam dhruvam saniyam yendriyagramam sarvatra samabudhaya te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hite rataha klesho dikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatirdukam dehavadviravapyate ye tu sarvani karmani Mai sanyasya matpara ananyena eva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavamina chirat partha maya veshichatetasam Mayeva mana adatsva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, Nivashishyasi mayeva, Ata urvam na samshayaha, Atachitam samadatum, Na sokshnoshi mayistiram, Abhyasa yogino tato, Mami chaptum dhananjaya, Abhyase pyasamartosi matkarma paramo bhava marartam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi ataitad apyashaktosi kartum madhyogam ashrita sarva karma palatyagam chatakuru yatatmavan Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj, jnanad jnanam vashishyate, jnanad karma phala tyagas, tyagat shantir anantaram. Adveshta sarva bhutana, maitra karuna evacha, nirmamo nirahankara, Samadhuka sukhashami santushta satatam yogi yatatma drita nishchayaha mayarpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha yasmanod vijate loko lokanod vijate chaya Harshamarsha bayo veger mukto yasa chame priyaha anapeksha shuchir daksha udasino gatavyata sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhakta same priyaha yo narishati na dveshti Na shochati na kankshati Shubha shubha parityagi Bhakti manya same priyaha Samakshatro cha mitre cha Tatamana pamanayo Shitoshna sukadhukeshu Samaksanga vivarjitaha Tulya ninda stutir mauni Santushto yena kena chit Adiketas tiramatir Bhaktiman me priyo naraha Yetu dharmamratam idam Yatoktam paryupasate Shradhadhana matparama Bhaktaste tiva me priyaha Om Tat Sariti Srimad Bhagavad-gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadashodhyayaha. Hari Om. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then just all results of your work and try to be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action, for by such renunciation one can attain peace of mind. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised on dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Guru Puja prayers, please. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Payeche Keva. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Payeche Keva. Namasheshtam Manamapi Shachi Putra Matra Sarupam Rupam Tasya Vrajam Rupuri Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Gatika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tannatosmi. He Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swanandadata Kadanaika Sindho Vrindavana Sidahita Bhatara Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. He Dina Bandho Kodanaika Sindho Guru Prasada Mai Mandamure Raksha Parare Bahupapagare Tatpada Padme Sumatishtra Krishne Yadyapi Amara Guru Chaitanya Das Tatapi Janiyami Kahara Prakash Guru Krishna Rupanash Sarshara Pramane Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karena Bhakta Gane Shiksha Guru Keta Jani Krishna Raswarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shrestha Eduri Rupa Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayastavesha Brahmayushapi Kridam Ridamudasmaranta Yontar Vahistanubhitam Ashubhan Vadunvan Charya Chaitya Prabhusha Sugatim Yanakti. Without serving the representative of Krishna, nobody can approach Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunda and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O give wisdom. O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Sri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with his spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Spiritual masters always represent themselves as the humblest servitors of the personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon the spiritual master as the manifested representation of Godhead. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the Supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representative of Srila Govindadev Vigraha. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful to us. Give the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Gati Sadna Bando Muisavadana Mate Jaharapra Sare Bhai E Bhavato Ya Jai Prapti hoy jahan aise Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitte Te Koriya Oikya Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitte Te Koriya Oikya Guru Mukha Vikrasade Pure Sarva Vikrasade Pure Sarva Dan Diloje Jane Jane Pravise Vidya Jani De Pokashito Vidya Jani De Pokashito Bhakti-da hoite abhijadinata jate Prema bhakti-da hoite abhijadinata jate Vede Gagahara Charito Vede Gagahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janada Bandhu Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokana Lokera Divana Lokana Lokera Divana Ha ha Prabhu Gora Goya Deha More Pada Jaya Ha ha Prabhu Gora Doya Deha More Pada Jaya Ebe Jashtu Sikivana Vijashtu Shiktivana Ha Prabhu Kora Doya De Amore Pada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Visakahine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Krishna Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narya Godu Manikya Nityananda Mahajan Pateyachi Nam Hatta Jiverakharan Shravan Jan Hey Shravan Jan Hey Prabhupada Nai Bai Magi Pita Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Koro Krishna Shika Aparada Singha Hoy Lord Krishna Krishna Mata Krishna Pita Krishna Gana Pran Krishna Sankara Koro Tari Anata Jive Loya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharma Sam Nariya Goti Nityananda Mahajan Nariya Nagare Nitai 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 Gaire Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Srimati Sudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaisesika Bhagavad-gita Shri Ruksanathan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Echai Gosai Kori Charanam Bandan Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran Echai Gosai Jani Sandas Sansavara Pararinu Moda Panchagras Sangala Charana Seve Bhakta Sanivas Charame Charame Hoy Abilas Echai Kosai Kami Gajya Koleva Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Bolo Anande Bolo Hare Bhagavatam Bhajanande Bolo Hari Bhagavatam Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhagavatam Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhagavatam Vaishnava Pad Padma Koreas Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottam Das. Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottam Das. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Jai Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagare, hey, Govinda Gopala Hare, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Gopala, Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhav Mohan, Radha Gopi Ballava, Bhagare, Radha Govinda Gopala Hare. ऐसे भगवान को मेरे बार बार प्रणाम है। ऐसे भगवान को मेरे बार बार प्रणाम है। ऐसे ज्ञान श्याम को मेरे बार बार प्रणाम है। श्याम मेरे बारंबार प्रणाम है। तो प्रेमानंदे निताई गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताई गौरा हरि बोल।
Paramahamsa Parivarjkacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Bhayacharanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivarjkacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Ki Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jumani Devi Gangi Devi Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Janna Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to all the previous acharyas, and to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining Srimad Bhagvatam class. This is the height of religious life, to sit together and hear from Srimad Bhagvatam. What to speak of all the other activities which are inherently spiritual and which are kept in abeyance in most academic institutions. When those who wish to study the mind do so, they look at the mechanisms of the brain and venture sometimes into the ways that the mind works and how to be more peaceful. But nary do they venture into the realm of discussing the personality of Godhead, for that is taboo in the material world. It's a tacit agreement amongst all living beings in general to not mention the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a matter of etiquette, to not spoil the bhava of the material world. However, there are some who, due to exhaustion with the pall of ignorance or the great endeavor it takes to cover the truth in this world, decide that enough's enough. Bahunam jamanamante gyanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. And just by admitting that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, acknowledging, such a person becomes a great soul. Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashrita. If any sincere person who's tired of covering the truth decides to pray to God, even if he or she doesn't know who God is, and say, please, show me the truth, sincerely from the heart, then at that very moment, that person is under the shelter of the divine energy. And Krishna, who is waiting and has been waiting since a time immemorial for each soul and continues to wait for each soul and accompanies each soul in this world, is only waiting for that moment when the living entity says, please show me the way. And then, of course, Tesham Ivanukam Partam Aham Jnanijam Tamaha Nashayam Yatma Bhavasto Jnana Deepena Pashvata. Krishna lights a lamp and says, this way, please, step carefully this way and then that way. And it leads to the association of devotees, because Krishna awakens within our heart a desire to associate with those who have seen the truth and who are enthusiastically pursuing it. And that leads us to the Srimad Bhagvatam, which is, as it's said in the very beginning, reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. One has to want to distinguish reality from illusion. There is a way in which, when one's trying to wake up and hears the alarm clock, one may say, oh, just a little bit longer. It's hard to pull oneself away from the mode of ignorance, but to speak of passion or even goodness. And today's topic will be from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, 13th chapter, which is the Hamsa Avatar, answering questions about the goal of life and how to attain it. And the first 6 verses of the 13th chapter are especially practical for those who are on the path of devotional service. Because there's a way in which, in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajanti mam dradavrata. If you are to be fully determined on the path of devotional service, then it's important for you to live in a certain way. Otherwise, you may sabotage your progress. Even the most sincere person, without a process and without purification of body, mind, and soul, can be waylaid on the process of devotional service. Prabhupada gave the example of trying to light a fire while pouring water on it. And so, coming to this topic, Hamsa Avatar will be describing how throughout the circle of our life we should keep association with those things that are in sattva. People in sattva, places that are in sattva, times that are in sattva, scriptures that are in sattva, water that's in sattva. And so we'll start today with 11:13:1. And may I have a Bhagavad-gita? I've been finding it especially useful to keep a Bhagavad-gita at hand. And referring to the Lord's version gives a sense of authority. It is authoritative. You have to have a source of knowledge. In some discussion with an academic recently, we came to the point of epistemology, and it's one of the most important foundational aspects of any discipline is to ascertain how you know what you know and where you will go for axiomatic truth. Because as tiny souls in a gigantic universe, which is overwhelmingly bewildering, one must have some clear channel from which to take knowledge that proves itself. It has to be self-luminous and accepted as authoritative. Otherwise, we can't move a step, either in the physical sciences, the mental sciences, or to speak of the spiritual science. It's helpful, and I noticed Prabhupada in his preaching emphasized Bhagavad-gita. Sometimes when people would talk about Hinduism or ask him if our movement was Hindu, Prabhupada would say that it is based on the Bhagavad-gita. And that's safe, especially if it's Bhagavad-gita, or only or exclusively if it's Bhagavad-gita as it is. As then we have a basis for discussion. We have an axiomatic base to start from. So just having the Bhagavad-gita nearby, and when we have an idea, it's good to prove it by looking it up in the Bhagavad-gita, reciting the verse, and examining what Krishna has to say about it. That keeps us honest, without any speculation. This is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita. After Arjuna asks him about what is a self-realized person, he says, Dukeshu anavigna manaha, sukeshu vigataspriha, vitaragabhaya krodha, stita dhir munir uchate, Astita di muni, a muni who's a deep thinker. We want to be deep thinkers, but not speculative deep thinkers. We want to deeply think about what Krishna has to say, and then base whatever we do, whatever decisions we make, on what Krishna has to say. And such a person is impervious to the vicissitudes of the material world. So, in this chapter, I'll just give a brief summary. There's, in the introduction to this chapter, the commentators have written, the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are related to material intelligence, not to the soul. One should conquer the lower modes of passion and ignorance by the mode of goodness. And then one must surpass the mode of goodness by acting in the transcendental mode of pure goodness. And at the top, it says, in this chapter, Lord Sri Krishna explains to Uddhava how human beings overwhelmed by sense gratification become bound by the three modes of nature and how to renounce these modes. The Lord then describes how he appeared in his form of Hamsa before Lord Brahma and the four sages headed by Sanak, and revealed to them various confidential truths. The four Kumars had gone to Brahma to ask some questions, but Brahma, having just performed acts of creation, was tinged with the mode of passion, and therefore he couldn't answer them. It isn't that he didn't want to answer them, it's just that the answers were not forthcoming. Why? Because he was tinged with the mode of passion. And therefore Hamsa came to give the definitive answer to the questions of these sages. Going to the Bhagavad-gita, we find in chapter 14 the three modes of material nature. Krishna says at the very beginning of this chapter, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, and again this chapter is about the three modes of material nature, one can attain the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So this verse says, Sattvam Rajastama iti, and Guna Prakriti Sambhava. So Sattvam, mode of goodness, Raja, the mode of passion, Tama, the mode of ignorance. Iti, thus. Guna, the qualities, Prakriti, material nature. These are the qualities of material nature. So it's important categorical knowledge to know the environment that we're in as spirit souls. Prakriti Sambhava, Nibadnanti. So the material nature is produced of these three modes of material nature. And Nibadnanti means it conditions them. Dehe, in this body. While we're in the body, Dehinam, the living entity who's in the body, who's eternal, Avyayam, gets conditioned by the modes of material nature. And in the next verse, Krishna says, O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. And we find in the Srimad Bhagvatam the verse in which it is mentioned, this metaphor about wood, smoke, and fire. Partiva dharano tumas tasmadagnis tarimayaha tamasastu rajas tasmat satvam yad brahmadarshanam. That what Sadgoswami is advocating is to come out of the lower modes of material nature and come to goodness, because sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. By sattva, one can have a view to Brahman, a view of Brahman. Not from rajas and not from tamas, but from sattva. Sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. You can see what is spirit and what is matter from that position and not otherwise. So Krishna here is giving this most important knowledge, and this is also the topic of the Hamsavatar. Lacking discrimination, one identifies with the material body, and consequently the mode of passion, which produces misery, takes over the mind, which is normally in the mode of goodness. As the mind evolves its function of decision and doubt, it creates intolerable hankerings for sense gratification. So the mind is by nature, it's part of the material nature, but it's part of the material nature that comes from sattva. The mind is in sattva. The buddhi, the intelligence, is in rajas. This is mentioned by Kapila. And oftentimes people say, well, wait a minute, in the hierarchy, in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Indriyani prayanyahur indriyebhyast parammanaha tamasastu rajastasmat sattvam yat. No, wait, I crossed over verses. How fun. Mix and match, Vaisesika Das. Help yourself. It says, Indriyani prayanyahur indriyebhya parammanaha manasastu parabudhir yo budhe paratastu saha. He says that lowest of all are the senses, above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intellect, and above the intellect is the soul proper. So sometimes people say, well, shouldn't the intelligence be in the mode of goodness? But the intelligence works to create things. Take what's in the mode of, in the mind, and you have lemons and you have limes, and then it makes lemon lime. And then that's not enough. So now we have to have 31 flavors, Baskin Robbins. Or how many ever they have. Sorry if I made a mistake on that one. So lacking discrimination, one identifies with the material body. Unfortunate persons who are bewildered by the urges of the mode of passion become the slaves of their senses, even though they know that the eventual result of their work will be suffering. They cannot avoid engaging in such fruitive work. So I just finished reading a book called Unwinding Anxiety by Judson Brewer. He's a professor of psychiatry and neurology at Brown University. And the reason I read his book was because we're in a conversation with him. We means our little team of marauders who are reaching out to various academics and lots of different kinds of people to start conversations. And I wanted to be well acquainted with his work before we talked to him, which we did on Tuesday. And in his book, and incidentally, he specializes in overcoming addiction and bad habits. So what he describes in his research of the mind and the way it works is that there are what he calls habit loops. And giving very abstract or summary, because there's a lot of details to it, I won't go into them. He talks about the principal means of rising above habits. Is that something you're interested in? Yes. Why? Is because what he says, the prime instrument or means to rise above addiction or habits is, wait for it, awareness. I find that very interesting because awareness comes from the soul, not from the apparati of the intelligence or the mind itself. It's actually the will of the soul to independently choose to look at something objectively. And even in the depths of addiction to one thing or another, and as Krishna mentions here in the Bhagavad-gita, as soon as we come in contact with material nature, we become addicted to it. Just supplanting that word in the verse itself, because that's what it means to be conditioned. We're conditioned by habit loops and addictions to the material nature. And how do we get out of them? By awareness. One first has to become aware that you're in it. And what to speak of admit. If you've ever heard of 12-step program, these 12-step programs to overcome addiction for people who have various kinds of addiction, one of the stages is to become aware of the fact that you are addicted and then admit it. That's a kind of advanced awareness, is to admit that you have a problem. So if you don't admit that and you say, the material world's fine and I don't mind dying, what to speak of all the onslaught of miseries, that's okay with me too. Well, all right. Good luck with that. But for those who have decided they would like to rise above the slavery, as Prabhupada put it, or as the commentators put it, of the senses, or the slave-driving nature of the senses, not be a slave to the senses. Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udarapasta vegam, itan vegam yo vishaheta dhira, sarvam apimam pritivim nasishat. Rupa Goswami begins his essence of all advice on bhakti that you have to control the urges. And that doesn't happen willy-nilly. It happens by a determined effort that I will overcome the urges of the senses, tongue, belly, genital, mind, all the urges of anger, etc. And by that, pritivim nasishat, everybody becomes your disciple, he's saying basically. Everyone on earth becomes your disciple if you're able to do that, because nobody can do it. It's impossible. People do it for a while and then, hey, what happened to you? It's, well, you know. That's the mode of the material world. And even those who perform severe austerities, yeneir vindaksha vimuktamaninas toyasta bhavada vashudha buddhaya aruya krishena paramparam tata patantyato nadrita yushmarangraya. Krishena, it means what it sounds like. You're really you're grinding it, trying to stop the senses from their onward march, carrying you into hell. But patantyada, he said, unless you have the right process, you're going to fall back down again and again. You'll miss it. So this awareness of the problem itself is the point of departure. Even though they know that the eventual result of their work will be suffering, they cannot avoid engaging in such fruitive work, forced. A discriminating person, on the other hand, look up discrimination, please, keeps himself detached from the objects of the senses and, by utilizing appropriate renunciation, takes shelter of unalloyed devotional service. I'll read that last sentence again. A discriminating person. What is a discriminating person? What are the characteristics of discrimination? One of those Shan words.
Discrimination is a noun, which means the making of distinctions, act of observing or marking a difference. From late Latin, discriminationem. And it's a past participle stem of discriminare, which means to divide or separate.
Yeah. What verse am I thinking of from the Sri Upanishad? No. That's right. Anyad evahur sambhavad, anirahura sambhavad, iti shushumadhiranam yenastad. Anyad evahur vidyaya, anyadahur avidyaya, iti shushumadhiranam yen. So this is those who have applied this principle of discrimination, this is what the verses say, those who have really thought about it carefully have ascertained there are differences. In other words, if you get perfect knowledge, there's one result. If you get, I'm not going to use the word fake because it's been overused and to the detriment of everyone. When we get knowledge that appears to be knowledge, but which is not, because it's not transcendental, then there's a different result. And putting your attention to the Supreme or putting your attention to illusion, there's a difference. I have one comment about that. Duh. Right? Isn't that one of those duh things? But they pointed out because although it's so obvious as the nose on your face, it's still everybody misses it because of the modes of material nature. It's smoky in here, and it's like, okay, everybody else is doing it. In fact, oftentimes, and I just heard this recently, somebody who's doing brain research, and was saying that because there's so much neuroplasticity in the brain, and the fact is that although there are diseases or general degradation of the brain, there can be over time that ends up in dementia or Alzheimer's. There are ways in which lifestyle changes, in which it makes it far more likely that you won't descend into that. However, previously in the 1980s and so forth, people just said either you get it or you don't. And there's no choice in it. But through various studies, it's been ascertained that there are ways in which the brain can improve itself. How did I get into that? I got so, huh? Because what? So we have to just, I don't know about the brain part though, I can't remember. Can't somebody take me back one more step? And then one more step from that. Sorry. So it'll come back to me. A discriminating person, on the other hand, keeps himself detached from the objects of the senses and by utilizing appropriate renunciation takes shelter of unalloyed devotional service. Lord Brahma himself has no material cause. He is the cause of creation of all living beings and is the greatest among all the demigods. Yet, even Brahma is always suffering agitation of the mind on account of the duties he has to perform. Therefore, when he was questioned by his sons, headed by Sanak, who were born from his mind, about the means for driving away desires for sense gratification, he was incapable of giving them an answer. In order to receive some insight into this matter, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereupon the Supreme Lord appeared before him in the form of the swan incarnation. Lord Hamsa proceeded to give instructions about the categorical identity of the self, the different states of consciousness. Oh, I know what it was. I was just saying that in the 1980s there was information in medical science that either you get it or you don't. And I heard somebody who's done much more research and has more modern ideas about it, that was then, and because a few studies said it, everyone just followed it and didn't question it for decades. And that goes on quite frequently in the sciences. High carb diet, I remember carbo load and all that kind of stuff. You guys weren't around for it. You're lucky you missed it. And there were studies about various kinds of therapies and things, do this, don't do that, and then later on say, no, that doesn't work. Okay. Lord Hamsa proceeded to give instructions about the categorical identity of the self, the different states of consciousness, wakeful awareness, sleep and deep sleep, and the means for conquering the material existence. The sages headed by Sanak became freed from all their doubts by hearing the words of the Lord and worshipped him with pure devotion in mature love of God. Before I go to the next segment, which is reading of the first 6 verses, do you have any reflections or questions? Yes, Krishna Saka. and then Devavrata, who's on Traveling Sankirtan.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I have a question on 14.3 where it says, Krishna says, I impregnate Brahman, and from that living bodies are born. So what is the living body? It is spirit, soul, or material bodies? And
Well, the body appears to be alive because the soul's within the body. And incidentally, I was talking to a very well-educated and articulate godbrother recently, and he was saying in modern preaching, he said, he feels that we may do a disservice to people by saying, you're not your body. He said, I suggest one small adjustment to say to people, you're not just your body. It's much easier for them to process. Because as Devahuti says, to Kapila Dev, it really does seem like I am my body. It's a big jump to say you're just not your body. And that's borne out in the Vishvakosh dictionary. Prabhupada quotes and says, Atma means body, mind, and soul. So there's such an identification with the body that it's hard to conceive that I'm not my body. Devavrata.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Greetings from the road, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Jai. Please give our best to all the LDS and Mormons. Tell them we think they look great. Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
I was just, I've been thinking this week how one of the things which gets us so much entangled in the material energy is this desire for recognition. And so I was thinking about this verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Kaviraj Goswami compares sense gratification and love for Krishna, the comparison of iron and gold. And so I was thinking how the primary thing which binds us to this identification with the modes of nature is this iron-like desire for recognition. And then I was studying the difference, the different properties of gold and iron. And gold has this property where it doesn't get attracted by a magnet. It's known as diamagnetic. Whereas iron, it not only does it become attracted by a magnet, but it also develops a magnetic quality. And so I was thinking how when we have this desire for recognition, it causes us to become ensconced in the modes of nature, which is functioning like a magnet. So that desire for recognition pulls us closer to the material energy. But then when we have this feeling of no interest in personal recognition, but just wanting to serve for the sake of service without being noticed for it, it's a gold-like quality which then keeps us freed from being attracted to the magnet-like material energy.
And with that, I'm going to end the class because everything else is going to be downhill from there. That was fantastic. I love that. Yeah, it's so helpful to take those metaphors that we hear all the time and then go more deeply within them and find out that there's some scientific basis to it. It just makes it so useful. I mentioned it earlier this morning, but you may not have heard it, but I was talking to David Cresswell yesterday. He's also a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist who studies meditation at Carnegie Mellon. And when I told him the metaphor from the Upadeshamrita about jaundice and sugar cane juice, he practically hit the ceiling. He's like, "This is it. This is a perfect analogy. One analogy can change your whole life." Right, Bhakti Tim? He was there. Thank you very much, Devavrata Prabhu. Okay, who is next? We have Malini and Krishna Dave. There should be a way that when you pick up each mic, it lights up a color on the board or something like that.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, thank you so much for bringing the point about overcoming unwanted habits. So in that you mentioned one thing about one of the first steps is to be aware and then admit it. Sometimes there are some unwanted habits that you've been working on for a long time, and even though you're aware, you admit it, but still you find it difficult to overcome because mind goes back to that. So is there anything that you can suggest to?
Yeah. First I'll quote Krishna. He says in the Bhagavad-gita, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasa dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya paramjushvar nivartate. 20 points for anybody who knows the verse number. 50 points. What? 2.59? Okay. I was just changing it to 50 points, so you caught me right at the right time, so you get all 50. And Krishna has said here, Vishaya, objects for sense enjoyment, vinivartante, are practiced to be refrained from. So this is the stage in which we're aware of them and we're practicing to be aloof from them. Niraharasya, by negative restrictions, because it's like, no. Dehina, for the embodied, rasavarjam, giving up the taste. Rasa, sense enjoyment. Api, although there is, asya, his param, far superior things. Drishtava, by experiencing nivartate, he ceases from. And of course the translation, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So this is what this Judson Brewer, psychiatrist, calls a BBO, a bigger, better offer. And here's Prabhupada's purport. Unless one is transiently situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. So I'm just recalling also my discussions with Judson Brewer, and he was talking about the next stages. And one of them is Anyadevahur Sambhavad, Anyadahur Sambhavad, although he doesn't refer to God so much. It is to analyze what the actual effects of the thing you're doing are. Because sometimes in a habit loop, we don't think about what it's doing to us in general. He gives the example of smoking. People just smoke because they get used to it and they're in a habit loop. And incidentally, it's the hardest of habits to overcome, more difficult than even narcotics. And those who analyze it and see, what am I getting from this or not getting from it, and are aware of it, have a good foothold in coming to a bigger, better offer, because they can understand that without doing that, there's an opportunity cost from doing that. You can lose part of your life according to the actuarial charts. That could be something. What to speak of your health, what to think if it's not even pleasant. Sometimes people don't even think of that. However, the ultimate remedy is to have a higher taste of the beauty of Krishna. And that means when we have an experience of the sublimity of Krishna and our relationship with him, and we hanker for that, then we naturally give up the other things. And as Devavrata Prabhu was mentioning, puja, labha, pratishta. These are three very subtle attachments that pervade the heart. That is, puja, desire to be recognized. I'm doing this because I want to be appreciated for it. Labha means, what do I get in return? And pratishta means some distinction, that I have a position from which I'll have a better advantage than other people. Entitlement. These are very subtle attachments. But we notice Madhavendra Puri, when at the Gopinath temple and having had an interaction, a loving interaction, noticeably loving interaction with the Gopinath deity, who perceived that he wanted to taste the sweet rice. It was for noble reasons. He wanted to offer it to his deity Gopal. And he thought, if I could taste it, then I could know how to make it. I'll reverse engineer it. But he took it as, oh no, I tried to enjoy the Lord's bhoga. And Gopinath said, oh, it's so sweet. I'll steal some for him, I'll give it to him, and I'll have this loving exchange with him. So the Brajari had a dream after he had taken rest, and Gopinath told him, I stole some sweet rice, it's for my devotees in the marketplace, go give it to him. So he woke up, took a Brajari shower, went back on the altar, and then he found it. And then he went right out to the marketplace, which was empty except for Madhavendra Puri. It was somewhere out there. And he began calling out, if you're here, Madhavendra Puri, please come out because you're the most fortunate person in the universe. Gopinath has stolen this sweet rice for you. He came and received it, did Madhavendra Puri. And afterwards he thought, by the time the sun comes up, people are going to swarm me because they're going to hear about this from the Pujari. It's going to spread. And he didn't want any fame. So he left that place as soon as possible to be in a secluded place, to stay in obscurity. So he was so refined, he didn't want to lose that taste of his relationship with Krishna. Didn't want to disturb that at all. That's the param drishva nivartate, when we have that. And of course, the whole 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagvatam is about how there has to be the destruction of the desire seed itself within the heart. Because there's a way in which, although we overcome habits by watching YouTube, they come back sometime later. But when one, yene ravindaksha vamuktamaninas toyastabhava, when there's a relationship with the lotus-eyed Lord, then that seed becomes fried, and it's param drishva nivartate. So that's necessary. Krishna Dave. And then I'm back to the book. Where'd you get that cursed red mic? Okay, let's see which one works. Try it. Maybe the curse is lifted.
Haribo.
Both
Haribo.
are cursed.
Haribo. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question on the purport that we went over regarding the incarnation of the Lord. So I learned that there's like the Shavdar, the 10 main incarnations, and then also reading Srimad Bhagvatam, there are other incarnations as well that have that Lord has taken. And then there's also partial incarnations, so I wanted to understand and get clarity from you regarding like how many incarnations have the Lord taken. I've also heard like there's as many incarnations as waves. Maybe that's like wrong information, but Srila Prabhupada said that we have to be very careful about like considering being like we have to be careful about like taking any incarnation seriously until it is mentioned in the Shastra.
Yeah, everything you said is correct. Do we have any Laghu Bhagavatamritas here in stock? You don't have to leave the class. I'm just curious. Yes? Oh, do we have more in there? Could I have one? I'm going to give you a book to answer all your questions. Because it's a science. Krishna gives the descriptions of the various avatars of the Lord. Of course, it comes up in many places, when Krishna was in his name-giving ceremony. Garga Muni says, Asan varnastrayo yasya grinato nu yugam tunum shuklo raktastata pita idanam krishnatam gata. He said, oh, yeah, this is one of the avatars. Or this is this is Krishna, and he comes in many different colors. Shuklo, white, raktas, red, tata Krishna, black, idanim krishnatam gata. And also it's mentioned in that verse, green, like Ramachandra. Shuklo raktas tata pita, yellow. Pitta, pita. Pita means yellow. Pitta means father. So keep that in mind. So in this book, the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami goes through, if you have the patience for it, it's very mechanical. Even the sections when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was describing to Sanatana Goswami all of the various forms of Lord Narayan, there's combinations because where the conch, lotus, disc, and club are held distinguishes what name they are. And then, of course, there's Yuga avatars, there are Leela avatars, there are Purusha avatars, many different kinds of avatars. And in this book that I'm going to give you, Rupa Goswami goes into the entire science of it. You can get a PhD in that. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go back to the matter at hand. And here we have in verse number 1. This is Bhagavan speaking, by the way. This is Hamsa, Avatar, speaking. He says, the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, pertain to material intelligence and not to the spirit soul. By development of material goodness, one can conquer the modes of passion and ignorance, and by cultivation of transcendental goodness, one may free oneself from material goodness, even from material goodness. So again, three modes of material nature, he names them, and says doesn't pertain to, they pertain to material intelligence, not to the spirit soul. So but that's a hint, a clue. By development of material goodness, one can conquer the modes of passion and ignorance. This is also in the Bhagavad-gita. Krishna mentions in the 14th chapter, doesn't he, that they're always fighting for supremacy. Okay, Shraddha, which verse number? 10? Thank you. Who gave 10? Yes, 50 points. 10, Mukaravinda, thank you. Rajas tamas chabi puya sattvam bhavati bharata rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamas sattvam rajastata. It sounds like a cheer or something. Rajas tamas chabi puya sattvam bhavati bharata rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamas sattvam rajastata. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there's always competition for supremacy. Have you noticed this in your life? You can be sailing along and like, wow, I'm really there. And then all of a sudden, what happened to you? I fell asleep. purport, when the mode of passion is prominent, the modes of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance. Or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. Therefore, we have the Bhagavat Margana Pantratrik Vidhi. Now, you'll find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Lord Chaitanya says, holy name doesn't wait for initiation, it's sufficient for everything. And it is. However, because we're affected by the modes of material nature by dint of taking birth in the material world, especially Kali Yuga, it's unlikely that one is born as a liberated soul. And therefore, there's provision within the process to maintain a higher state of life through the Pantratrik Vidhi. You know what I mean by Pantratrik Vidhi? It means the rules and regulations given for deity worship especially. It's a lifestyle. It means that you live clean in the mode of goodness so you can approach the deity without making any offense. And therefore, Jiva Goswami, in commentary on the verse in which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, holy name is sufficient, Jiva Goswami says, we must also have Pantratrik initiation. Means that we have to worship the deity along with chanting Hare Krishna. Otherwise, we'll fall victim to the lower modes of material nature, and we won't be able to chant Hare Krishna. Oftentimes people sit to chant Hare Krishna and they say, maybe later. Right now, I scroll. And then 20 years later, everyone says, what happened to you? And the guy says, yeah, what was that mantra? If you could remind me, I'll try starting again. And therefore, there's this all-encompassing framework that is given by our acharyas that you keep yourself clean in your lifestyle by Pantratrik rules and regulations. And then at the same time, you chant Hare Krishna. And these are what Prabhupada used to refer to, 2 train tracks by which your train can go back home, back to Godhead. And did I finish the purport? Yes, and the Vasudeva state means above goodness. And that means Sattvam Vishudam Vasudeva Shabditam Yat Iyate Tatra Puman Apavrita means to be uncovered. Once you're uncovered from even the mode of goodness in the material world, then you can see Vasudeva directly. He's always there. Just like the stars are there, but you can't see them. Only under the proper circumstances can you see that we're in a universe. Otherwise, we get absorbed only in the street lights and the stoplights. Thank you. And are not aware of who we are, where we are. So, from the purport, goodness in the material world never exists in a pure form. Therefore, it is common knowledge that on the material platform, no one is working without personal motivation. In the material world, goodness is always mixed with some amount of passion and ignorance, whereas spiritual or purified goodness, Vishuddha Sattva, represents the liberated platform of perfection. Materially, one is proud to be an honest, compassionate man, but unless one is fully Krishna conscious, one will speak truths that are not ultimately significant, and one will give mercy that is ultimately useless. I marked that part. Useless mercy. Thank you for your useless mercy. Because the onward march of material time removes all situations and persons from the material stage, our so-called mercy and truth apply to situations that shortly will not exist. Real truth is eternal, and real mercy means to situate people in eternal truth. Still, for an ordinary person, cultivation of material goodness may be a preliminary stage on the road to Krishna consciousness. For example, it is stated in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagvatam that one who is addicted to meat eating cannot understand the pastimes of the Lord. Verse? Nivrittatarshe rupagiyamanat bhavaushadaschat totra mano biramat tarutama shloka gunanavadat puman virajeta puna pashugnat. Pashugnat means people who are slaughtering animals. By cultivation of the material mode of goodness, however, one may become a vegetarian and perhaps come to appreciate the sublime process of Krishna consciousness. Since it is clearly stated in Bhagavad-gita that the material modes of nature constantly rotate, one must take advantage of an elevated position in material goodness to step onto the transcendental platform. Otherwise, as the wheel of time turns, one will again go into the darkness of material ignorance. Stair step. Next verse. When the living entity becomes strongly situated in the mode of goodness, then religious principles characterized by devotional service to me become prominent. One can strengthen the mode of goodness by cultivation of those things that are already situated in goodness. And thus religious principles arise. Scientific purport. Since the three modes of material nature are constantly in conflict, vying for supremacy, how is it possible that the mode of goodness can subdue the modes of passion and ignorance? Lord Krishna here explains how one can be strongly fixed in the mode of goodness, which automatically gives rise to religious principles. In the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, Lord Krishna elaborately explains the things that are in goodness, passion, and ignorance. Thus, by choosing food, attitudes, work, recreation, etc., strictly in the mode of goodness, one will become situated in that mode. The usefulness of sattva gun, or the mode of goodness, is that it produces religious principles aimed at and characterized by devotional service to Lord Krishna. Without such devotional service to the Lord, the mode of goodness is considered useless and merely another aspect of material illusion. The word vradat, or strengthened, increased, indicates clearly that one should come to the platform of Vishuddha Sattva, or purified goodness. The word vradat indicates growth, and growth should not be stopped until full maturity is reached. The full maturity of goodness is called Vishuddha Sattva, or the transcendental platform on which there is no trace of any other quality. In pure goodness, all knowledge automatically manifests, and one can easily understand one's eternal relationship with Lord Krishna. That is the actual meaning and purpose of Dharma, or religious principles. Is everyone okay? Yes. I'm going to keep going. Srila Madhvacharya points out in this regard that an increase in the mode of goodness strengthens religious principles, and the invigorated execution of religious principles strengthens the mode of goodness. In that way, one can advance higher and higher in the mode of spiritual happiness. Text 3. Religious principles strengthened by the mode of goodness destroy the influence of passion and ignorance. When passion and ignorance are overcome, their original cause, irreligion, is quickly vanquished. And I'm going to read the Sanskrit in the next one because it's a really beautiful verse and it comes to the essence of what we're talking about. Agamo pa praja desha kala karma cha janmakcha dhyanam mantro ta samskaro dashaite guna hetava. So this is a list of items that you should put in your cohort that, or the list that's here, each one of the items should be in the mode of goodness for you to be successful. Is that clear? Yes. So what's the list? The first one is agama. Agama means religious scriptures. Shouldn't read stuff that's in the mode of passion and ignorance, unless it's for service, in which case it's considered to be yukta vairagya. Next one is apaha. Apaha means water. Don't drink contaminated water. What is that? Camp Cola. Fanta. What's that orange drink in India? Is it Fanta? Don't drink Fanta. Really, don't drink it. It's contaminated water. And, you can't drink fruity. Don't drink fruity. You can give it to the monkeys to get your glasses back, but don't drink. Don't use cologne, perfume, all that stuff. Unless you offer to the deities, then you can take some of that and, put a little something here from the deities. But these are all contaminations of water, so pure water is important, and you should always, as Prabhupada writes elsewhere, when you're offering water to the deity, it should be collected purely. Tap water, better filter it. Okay, praja, association with people in general or one's children. So association is almost self-explanatory, but whomever you associate with, you're going to pick up the qualities of. I can trace out in moments of introspection where I got certain traits. I can just see them. They're already there, and they're practically indelible. So it's better to be discriminating about who you associate with, because you're going to pick up their qualities. And if you start hanging out with characters in the mode of passion and ignorance, it's guaranteed. This is a science. You're going to be in the mode of passion and ignorance, and then you won't be able to understand Krishna consciousness, and you'll start thinking, then maybe this is mythology or something. And what is it from? If Brahma couldn't understand the answer just because he was doing his duty and it was related to the mode of passion, if you hang out with deadbeats who don't care about Krishna consciousness, you're going to start picking up Jada Buddhi. You know what Jada Buddhi is? Jada Buddhi Parihari Prasada Bhujanakura, and then you're going to have to come take prasad. Jada Buddhi means you're a deadhead, and not the kind that follows the Grateful Dead, who are dead anyway, so with all respect, because they're the Grateful Dead. Desha means place. Don't go to places unless you're on Sankirtan. You can go to bars, but if you're distributing books. In fact, we recommend it. It's very good. Otherwise, don't hang out in these places, the modes of passion and ignorance, because you're going to pick them up in the place. They're there hanging around, and they get on you. And then kala, the times. There's a science of time, and it has to do with muhurtas. The days divided up into muhurtas. Krishna has his pastimes in Vrindavan on a schedule, arranged by Vrindadevi. And there's a way in which, in the material world, there are vibrations at certain times. For instance, before the sun comes up, hour and 40 minutes, that muhurta, free nectar floating in the air. Don't be, because it doesn't come in through your nostrils so much when you're sleeping. You want to be there to catch the free nectar in the air, so that's the time. There's a science to Krishna consciousness. Why do we come to Mangalartik? Why do we get up early? You're automatically getting purified by the time factor when you're going to be up for that, especially because you're coming to Mangalartik. Karma, activities, self-explanatory. Janma, birth. Dhyanam, what you meditate on. What are we meditating on? As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Dhyayato, same word, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam. If you meditate on the objects of the senses, you're going to go down the rabbit hole. And next thing you know, you're going to be stuck with it. Sangasteshu Pujayati means now it's yours. You touched it, it's yours. You keep it. No, I don't want it. No, too late, keep it. So be careful. And then mantra, make sure you're chanting transcendental mantras. Yes? Say yes. Yes. Transcendental mantras, not fake mantras. Ata and samskara, rituals for purification. That's why we do rituals for purification. In fact, Shamalangi added these first 6 verses to the schedule that we do for grain ceremonies. Didn't you? But I sent it to you, right? The request? Or am I sending things to the wrong Shamalangi? I've been putting a lot of requests lately. So rituals, purificatory rituals, the modes of nature become differently prominent. The items mentioned above possess superior and inferior qualities and are thus identified as being in goodness, passion, or ignorance. One can increase the mode of goodness by selecting religious scriptures in goodness, pure water, friendship with other persons in goodness, and so on. One should scrupulously avoid any of these 10 items that may be polluted by the inferior mode of nature. Among the items I have just mentioned, the great sages who understand Vedic knowledge have praised and recommended that they are in the mode of goodness, criticized and rejected those in the mode of ignorance, and shown indifference to those in the mode of passion. And finally, until one revives one's direct knowledge of the spirit soul and drives away the illusory identification with the material body and mind caused by the 3 modes of material nature, one must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. By increasing the mode of goodness, and one automatically can understand and practice religious principles. And by such practice, transcendental knowledge is awakened. So, there's a long purport after that, but you get the point. Krishna's point, that's what he's saying, is you not only have to chant Hare Krishna, but you also have to live a clean life at the same time. Now, there's 5 minutes left for a question. Yes, Yogadish, and then, okay, we got 2. I'll answer them in 30 seconds or less.
Hare Krishna. It seems like these verses describe that to increase through the modes, to get closer to the mode of goodness, one should associate with more things, activities, people, etc. in the mode of goodness, or bring more mode of goodness into your life. But at the same time, it seems when one is being influenced by a lower mode like passion or ignorance, they feel hankering, they feel maybe inertia. And it seems that when one is experiencing such a mode, they fundamentally aren't inclined to do those things and bring in more mode of goodness to life. So what is it that how does one actually do that, bring more mode of goodness or increase that?
Well, first doing what we're doing now. If we hadn't have brought it up, we might not have been acutely thinking of it. And as they say in sports, that's why they play the games. You say, oh, that's a foregone conclusion, this team is going to win, but then they play and the other team wins. And so we can at any time, by our discrimination and using our free will, we can win. So we want to win, right? So that's why we're talking about it. So first thing, you should hear about it. That's why these first 6 verses are vitally important. Why are we doing a grain ceremony? Why do we take a shower before we come to the temple and put on nice tilak and follow the pancharatric system? It's because these things naturally situate us in the mode of goodness. And we hear about them from others because of our desire to make advancement. So you have to hear about it. Put yourself in good association. Prabhupada once said, God helps those who help themselves. And helping oneself means putting oneself in front of transcendental sound vibration. So now we're aware. Now we can discriminate and do it, right? Yogadish?
Yes.
And that's why we make an intervention, because people who are steeped in ignorance and passion may have no conception of devotional service. Why do you think we knock on people's doors? As once somebody said to Prabhupada, but Prabhupada, people aren't interested. And he said, that's why we're going. How are they going to get interested unless we go and say, hello, hi. And, read the Miracle on 2nd Avenue. I think it's the best book in the universe. And Miracle on 2nd Avenue, the devotees we just read yesterday, they had gone to England, and there was a big production at rich people, famous people were invited to some soiree. What was it called? The Indian ambassador had invited people at some huge hall, and the devotees didn't get an invitation. And when they were driving in there, they had a little red pickup truck. What? It was at the house of the Indian ambassador, at the embassy. And there were all big fancy cars there. They hadn't received an invitation. And so when they drove up to the gate, that they, meaning the 6 devotees that were in England at the time, and Saraswati, maid 7, little baby they had with them. And so they had a red pickup truck. Only a few of them fit in the front. The rest had to sit in the back. And it looked like a wreck. And they got to the guard gate, and they said, do you have an invitation? And they said, oh, it's here somewhere. And they were looking around in the diaper bag and this and that. And they said, oh, no problem. Just go ahead. And they thought, oh, all right. And they went in. They parked their little beat-up red pickup truck next to a Lamborghini and a Mercedes. Whatever. And then they went to the door. And the Indian, very tall, stately person opened the door. He was the butler. And saw them all in their tilak and their Indian dress, and just, who are you with? And then Mukunda says, International Site for Krishna Consciousness. And they were very reticent about going there because they thought at any minute they could just be kicked out. So they went, and the butler took them to this big door, and he opened it, and much to their chagrin, there was a huge chandelier, and under the chandelier there were hundreds of people there drinking martinis and congregating, and they were all very well dressed. And then the butler put up his hand and he announcing the members of the International Site for Krishna Consciousness. And everybody looked, and they were like, what's going to happen now? And Ravi Shankar was there. So Ravi Shankar goes, oh, my people. And he went right to them, and then they were authorized because the most famous person there came and talked to them. He said, oh, these are the Hare Krishnas. We're with them. And then they became the hit of the whole place, even though nobody ever asked him, were you invited to come here? And so what if they didn't go? They debated amongst themselves. They even voted about, should we go, shouldn't we go? And so we get to vote also. Am I going to take the risk to become Krishna conscious, to go against the mass consensual trance of the material world where everyone votes for the mode of passion and ignorance, and that's the way it is? No, we intervene. And if they hadn't intervened, people never would have heard of Krishna. They wouldn't keep drinking their martinis, which is a mixed alcoholic drink that can light on fire if you put a lighter to it. Okay, your turn. Try to pick a winner in the microphone department. Let's see if you can win something here.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, go ahead.
I was wondering if the act of purifying oneself to the mode of goodness is also a form of devotional service.
Not in and of itself. However, if you're doing it in order to serve Krishna better, then it's considered devotional service. There's varnashrama. What's the verses about varnashrama we just learned? Huh? Who said? Oh, yeah. In any case, as Krishna mentions in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagvatam, that you could take the varnashrama, or you could take the practice of the mode of goodness, and so, what is it? Oh, that's there. Atapumbir Dujasheshta. There's another one in the 11th canto I was thinking of, that says that if you take the varnashram, but it's but it's not for Krishna. Like, what's his name? Jarasandha. He was totally into Varnashram, but he hated Krishna, so that's a non-starter. And also, cultivating mode of goodness. First of all, if you don't have Krishna as the goal of it, then you're going to fall down from the mode of goodness. That's what that verse, Yene Vinaksha, means. And if you cultivate a mode of goodness, it gives you a better chance. But if you cultivate to become Krishna conscious, but if you cultivate a mode of goodness for the sake of facilitating your devotional service, then it's right in line with what Hamsa Avatar is saying in this verse. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. There's a preliminary discussion about the modes of material nature, but it's practical. And I think it's encouraging because there are ways in which we can make adjustments to our lives. And also, after hearing this, Yogadish, then we're more inclined to make good decisions. And that goes to what Malini also asked, is that, where do we start? We start by hearing about the importance of life itself and the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and then making our life putting ourselves in the most favorable circumstance so that we can cultivate a Krishna consciousness. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, if you so desire, please inspire us to heed the advice of Hamsa Avatar. May we identify all habit loops, rise above them, achieve a higher taste, a bigger, better offer from the spiritual world. And may we also help everybody in Silicon Valley and beyond become Krishna conscious by expanding our outreach of prasadam distribution, Harinam Sankirtan, and book distribution. And when we smash our goal for 2026, which will be significantly bigger than we've ever done before because of the 100,008 goal for the planet. We have to set the example. Thank you for considering our request. And above all, please let us beat Mayapur. Thank you. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. And now, what? Krishna. And now we have our next presentation talk, I'm assuming, by one of our youth. Really? Oh, I wrote you twice. I must be sending that plus. Well, there's two things I wrote. One thing I wrote, and I didn't hear back from you, so I thought maybe one of us. We need more pictures. Did I send you that one?
I can take the chair. This one is move forward and this one's back. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So thank you for staying back for this presentation. We have a very special presenter today,
is Arna. And as many of you may know, she's family here. A lot of her family is part of our congregation, and so blessed that we can have you, Arna. And she's going to be presenting a topic that's very dear to all of us. What is the mood of entering Vrindavan?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Today I'll be presenting the mood of entering Vrindavan. So first, let's start off with what is Vrindavan. So Vrindavan is the place of all of Krishna's pastimes, and it's the heart of bhakti, where all of devotional service blooms. Everything is charged with Krishna's spiritual energy: trees, rocks, stones. And so when entering Vrindavan, one should drop all of their material desires behind. The mood of humility. All devotees should enter the mood of humility. Should enter the mood of humility when going into Vrindavan. They should drop all pride, ego, and expectations behind. They should also bow to the dust, or even simply the land where it has been touched by Krishna. And one should also have a deep dependence in him, almost childlike, comparing our smallness to the Lord. This is what leads to a deep connection with Krishna. In the Ashtakam, the third shloka says, Tanadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Tanadapi sunichena means be humbler than a blade of grass. Tarorapi sahishnuna, be as tolerant as a tree. Amanina manadena, give respect to all. Kirtaniya sadahari. This is the mood when talking to Krishna. The mood of service. When entering Vrindavan, one should also be in the mood of service. Devotees are encouraged to chant Krishna's names, engage in prayer, and offer respect to all. One should also have a servant-like attitude, ready to do devotional service whenever. This service is the main priority when being in Vrindavan. In the Bhagavad-gita, verse 55, chapter 18, it says, Bhaktya mam abhijannati yavam yaschasmi tatvataha tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate nantaram. This means, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of the God. This shows that you can only make a connection with Krishna through devotional service. Akrura enters Vrindavan. Long ago, the evil king Kamsa heard that Krishna and Balaram were living in Vrindavan. He wanted to bring Krishna to Mathura so he could kill him. So he sent Akrura. Despite being aware why he was sent to Vrindavan, Akrura entered with complete respect to Krishna and Vrindavan. This shows that the mood of devotion matters more than the reason behind it, and that Akrura's love and humility showed why he was accepted into Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan. The residents of Vrindavan love Krishna purely, with no expectations or material desires. Okay, this is what devotees should be attempting to do. Okay, this is what naturally attracts Krishna to them in Vrindavan too. True entry into Vrindavan comes through Raganuga Bhakti, the loving service that flows through Krishna's devotees. The conclusion. I can conclude from this presentation that reaching Krishna in Vrindavan requires humility, devotion, and service to his devotees, and that Vrindavan is Krishna's sacred home. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Thanks, Arna. What a nice little training package for anybody going to the Dham. I liked it a lot. My question is, did you enact any of these things when you went to the Dham last time?
Yeah, I did. I definitely engaged in saying Krishna's name a lot, and I chanted a lot. I remember I chanted 16 rounds for however much I could, because we were also very busy going to temples. But I think, yeah, I definitely did most of that was spoken about in this presentation.
And do you remember any of the elements of Akrura's prayers when he went into Vrindavan?
I don't think it mentioned anything about
Well, you kind of alluded to it. I just wanted to bring it out because it's such a nice part when he says that although I'm on a dastardly mission, still Krishna will understand my heart. And I really like that part of your presentation that brings out that point. How did you say it? It's not, yeah, go ahead.
I said it's not about the reason why you're going to do devotional service. It's not about why you're being sent to do devotional service, but it's like your heart and how pure it is when you're doing it.
Yeah, I found that to be an essential point. It was very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Is there any more questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you for the nice presentation. I really liked how you put nice pictures of Krishna with all the content. It was very nice to see. I have a question about the qualities, the mood. One quality was dependence on Krishna, deep dependence like a child. So how can we cultivate that quality?
So through the dependence of Krishna, you have to have true faith in him, and whenever anything's happening, you should just have pure dependence that, oh, he will fix it. And I think that's the way you can display that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Arna. Yeah, it's a joy to have Arna in our class, and as we know, it's a family business. So many of her families part of our congregation. So I keep thinking, how fortunate, and I'm glad that she's part of our Sunday school, and this is just being present here and giving your, attention just by being present, as you say. You show up, and then you're just part of the movement. So thank you, Arna, for all that you do. I'll hand over for any announcements by Bhakti community or by Sankirtan devotees. Who's going to speak the announcements? Oh, thank you.
Hare Krishna. We are very, very happy to announce that we finally have a poster for us to beat Mayapur. And at the moment, we are just revealing it digitally, but we will also have it printed and made it prominent in the temple room. And according to our poster, yes, this is beating Mayapur. So if we grow at least 32% every year in book points, then we wanted to beat Mayapur at least by 2035. So we will raise to almost 11.9 million book points. And what we are is today, as you can see, the monkey is trying to jump higher and higher, and finally we will reach there. We request all of you to keep this in mind always, and then we keep working towards it. by the blessings of Shishi Radha Madan Mohan, Mahaprabhu and Nrsingadev, we will achieve this goal and smash this goal. And I also wanted to mention some things from the last weekend. Very nice. We had a very, very nice weekend all over the Bay Area. Some devotees distributed locally here, different places. I happened to be in Dublin, Pleasanton last week. And Prabhu was mentioning last Sunday that we have to cover all the continents, and then he said, no, every town and village as well. So when we went for Bhagavatam distribution at Indian store, there was Sachinandan Gauranga Prabhu and then Harikatha Mataji. They both were saying in Telugu, because some people came and started speaking Telugu about Srimad Bhagavatam, and they said that their campaign is called Intinta Bhagavatam, which means not just every town and village, every house needs a Bhagavatam. That was really nice, because they're thinking that not just every town and village, but every house needs to have a Srimad Bhagavatam set. And the way they were presenting it, very humbly saying that we request you to please take up to this campaign and please take Srimad Bhagavatam to your home. And they were asking, just like that? And they said, yes, just like that. And then we just asked for a donation. And then they were very, very happy. And I think and then Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and Dhira Prashanta Prabhu came later. And totally, I think they distributed close to 24 Srimad Bhagavatam sets at Dublin. And what we felt is that everybody was happy to receive it. And digital books are also available if you like to. And we wanted to increase the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam. And our goal is to distribute at least 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatams by Bhadra Purnima worldwide. And we'll also reveal our goal for ISV tomorrow. And tomorrow afternoon, 2 o'clock p.m. at the temple, we also have a meeting where we wanted to brainstorm different ideas on how we can achieve our goal for Bhadra Purnima. So please join us. And today we will continue, and not only just today, every single day until Bhadra Purnima, we will continue our book distribution marathon. So please join us. It's really joyous. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti community is the same idea Prabhupada had, was to create facility for anyone who has a spark, the feeling that I should make something of my life rather than the status quo. We have everything in place. We have the literatures, we have the temples, we have association, we have the process. But people need a personal touch to come into the environment and be guided and encouraged. Especially we find those who are from the Western culture may find that they're slightly out of place when they come to certain other environments that we have created. So Bhakti community is very specifically designed to create a sanguine atmosphere for those who are unacquainted with Krishna consciousness. And since we're going out anyway, out means we live our lives and we meet people. We should follow in the footsteps of the early pioneers, Mukunda Maharaj and the others I mentioned from the book, and be very bold in inviting people to come. I've seen in the past with our Zoom calls that devotees who have enthusiastically met people on book distribution, or those in their daily lives who have met somebody who's interested in the topic of Krishna consciousness, have them invited them to come to join on Monday nights, Thursday nights, or any of the programs, Friday in person, or during the weekend there are some programs that they can join. And they feel so lucky to be included in these programs. The world's a dry, barren desert. There's no happiness at all. And people are struggling, but when they come in contact with devotees and the process of devotional service, they get great hope for their life. In order for us to expand significantly in the Bay Area, we need to include those who are from the non-traditional culture in all of our outreach, wherever it may be. And the systems that we have are highly important. Bhakti community is good-hearted, it's well organized, and it works. So please take advantage. Arm yourself with invitations and know what you're talking about whenever you meet people. And just invite them to a Zoom call and then join it yourself, or come to the Mantra Zone over in Palo Alto, the most clean, sophisticated neighborhood in the world, where people can come and walk into a beautiful home and have association, prasadam, and start their journey for Krishna consciousness. We would like to expand Bhakti community dramatically. And in order to beat Mayapur, we're going to need a lot more people. And that's why we're trying to beat Mayapur, for what it makes of us to do that. If we don't try to beat somebody, we'll stay where we are and we'll think we're doing okay. We should try to expand. Bhakti community is a good idea, and we should take full advantage of it as much as possible. This year, it should expand at least 5-fold, and that can be done very easily by everybody offering people an opportunity to join and come to a program where the only expectation or the only hope for them that we have is that they'll come back to the next one. So we try to be very, very kind and have no heavy expectation on them except for that. And I thank Jai Madhava and Pavani Bhakti and all the leaders, Bhakti and Vicky, who's been there since the beginning, giving her heart and soul, and all the other leaders of Bhakti community for all that they're doing, because it's a flagship program here in the North America, one that many, many devotees are looking for. In fact, when I tell them about it wherever I go, they say they didn't know something like that existed. So we should be more visible and more inviting to bring more people. 5 times expand. Okay? And all the Spanish-speaking people here, they should also come. So make friends with everybody. We should be a kind friend to all living beings and invite them to come and take part. And we'll have the biggest Harinam in the history of the universe right here in San Francisco when we get everyone together. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sharira Vijajal, Jodendriya Tahikal, Jibebele Vishashagore, Karmadya Divayati, Lobamoy Sudurmati, Takejita Katina Shankshare, Krishna Badadoyamoy, Horibare Jihojai. Swaprasad and Adilobai, Shayanamrita Pau, Radha Krishna Gunagau, Preme Dako Chaitanya Nitai, Ekadina Shanti Pure, Prabhu Advaitera Gare, Dui Prabhu Bojane Bosilo Shakori Aswadana Prabhu Bole Bhaktakana Esha Krishna Aswadilo aswadande Krishna prema aise mane se preme koro asvadan jada buddhi parihari prasara bhojana kori Hari Hari Bolo Sarvajan. Where's the next one? Paire Sachit Angani Kabu Madhavendra Puri Prabhu Prasadana Korena Bhojan Kaite Kaite Tara Ailo Prema Sudharba Bolesh Sanyasiragan Moksha Ganta Pula Bari Dali Dalna Chachari Shachi Mata Kori Lodandan Tara Shuddha Bhakti Hari Bojana Kori Lohari Shuddha Sama Eyanam Vyanjan Yogi Yogi Pai Jaha Boge Achabe Taha Hari Boli Kao Sabe Bhai Krishna Prasadana Jagat Koridanya Tripurari Nache Jahapai Tripurari Nache Jahapai Ma Prasade Govinde Nama Pramani Vaishave Sapa punya vatam rajan Vishwaso navajayate Prasare sarva dukkanam Maniraso pujayate Prasana chetaso yashu Mudipaya patishta Tayopa vikta sathanda Vasulantar chachitaha Udishta bojino dasa Tavamayam jayini Shiksham prayushi tambapi Nityam badudadeshata Prapti matrena bhoktavyam Nantakala vicharana Ladesha niyamastata Kala niyamastata Praptamanam duktam shishta Bhoktaram hari abravid Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasad ki Beat Mayapur ki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Please come